Factoring trinomials when a equals 1. If I had 6 oranges in one hand and 7 apples in the other, what would I have? Big hands? All right, on our agenda for today, we're going to do 4x puzzles together. We'll set up for factoring. We'll get ready to learn how to factor when a equals 1, and we're going to do 8 problems together. So let's get ready. You're going to need your notes, pencil, and calculator, and I ask you to try each problem. Let's look at this x puzzle. So the question becomes, what two numbers multiply to the top number, and those same two numbers add to the bottom number? So what two numbers multiply to 20 and add to 9? Well, we could have 10 and 2, 1 and 20, 4 and 5. 4 and 5 I can get to 9. So 4 and 5 would complete this x puzzle. Same two numbers that multiply to 32 and add to 12. That would be 8 and 4. So far, so good. Multiply to a negative 20. So if something's going to multiply to negative 20, one of them must be positive and one of them must be negative. And then add to a negative 8, but keeping in mind it has to be a negative 8. So again, 1 and 20, 4 and 5, 2 and 10. This is too far apart. This is too close. This is just right. And now I have to make one of them negative such that I'll get negative 8. So the 10 has to be negative to assign that negative to the 8. So negative 10 and positive 2 will complete this puzzle. We have another negative on the top, so we have to multiply to a negative 32, but add to a positive. So we have 1 and 32, 2 and 16, 4 and 8. 4 and 8 could get me to 4. The 8 would have to be positive and the 4 would have to be negative. So negative 4 and positive 8 will work here. So that's going to help us with factoring. In order to be able to factor, we want to first make sure that the polynomial is in standard form. Remember, standard form, we have the decreasing exponents, x to the 1, x to the 2, x to the 1, x to the 0. So this is a quadratic trinomial in standard form, so it's ready to be factored. Notice that a is 1, b is 9, and c is 20. So the title of this whole video is when a is 1. So that's what we're going to look at today. This is a little bit easier type, and then the next lesson will be on factoring when a is not 1. So I want to create an x puzzle, and I'm going to take a and c. So in this case, a is 1, c is 20. And I'm going to do what multiplies to a times c. Well, a times c is 20, so that's going to be 20 there. And what adds to b? Well, b is my 9, so that's going to go down there. And now we've just used the trinomial to create an x puzzle, and that's what we're going to complete. So what multiplies to 20, what two numbers, and then the same two numbers are going to add to 9. We already decided it's going to be 4 and 5. So, and this only works when a is 1. We're going to take those 4 and 5, and we're going to put them in parentheses, so we have x plus 4 and x plus 5. We have now factored. That's my answer. This one is in standard form. This one is in factored form. They are the same thing. If you were to graph them, they would both be the same parabola. You might say, where'd the 9 go, where'd the 20 go? But if I multiply it back, x times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 5 is 20. Combine my middle terms and I get x squared plus 9x plus 20. So we've just gone full circle. So we factor to get to factored form, and then we multiply to get it back to standard form. Let's try another one. So it is in standard form. A is 1, b is 12, and c is 32. So I'm going to make my little x puzzle with what multiplies to a times c. So 1 times 32 and adds to b, goes on the bottom, so that's going to be 12. Well, we went through this already, so what multiplies to 32 would be 8 and 4 because that also adds to 12. So I'm going to take those two and I'm going to put them in my parentheses. And now that's factored. Let's take a look at this. You can notice now we have some subtraction. So I do need to look at this as a -8 and a -20. A is still 1. I'm going to set up my X puzzle. So what multiplies to A times C is what multiplies to -20. And what adds to B is a -8. So we went through this. We checked out 1 and 20, 2 and 10. 2 and 10 we said would work. So 2 and 10. But this needs to be a -8, so this must have to be a -10. So we're going to use that, and where the negative is, that's going to become subtraction. So we have x plus 2 times x minus 10, and that is factored. I'd like you to take a minute and pause and try this one on your own, setting up the x puzzle and then factor. All right, A is 1, B is 4, C is -32. So I'm doing what multiplies to -32 and adds to 4. We said it was some combination of 8 and 4. One of them has to be negative to get the -32 from multiplication, but I have to be a +4. So it's this 4 that has to be negative. I'm going to use those two numbers, x plus 8, x minus 4. How'd you do? Good. Example 5. So we haven't seen these numbers before. We have A is 1, B is 5, C is 6. So when I set up the X puzzle, I have what multiplies to 6 and add to 5. I will tell you, when you get 6s, it can be a little tricky because we can do 1 and 6 or 2 and 3, but there's always just one answer. So this is not 1 and 6. That would multiply to 6, but 1 plus 6 gets me 7, so that doesn't work. So this is actually going to be 2 and 3. So it becomes x plus 2 and x plus 3. Now we have another 6. A is 1, B is 1, C is -6. So let's try to figure this out. We have to multiply to a -6, which means one of these answers is going to be positive, one's going to be negative, and I have to add to 1. Well, 1 and 6, 2 and 3. 1 and 6 is too far apart. 2 and 3 will get me there. The 1 has to be positive, so 2 and 3. I don't want to make the 3 negative. I want to make the 2 negative because 3 minus 2 is 1. So those are going to go in parentheses, x minus 2, x plus 3. You might be asking, could a student do it in the other order and put the 3 here and the -2? And that would work as well. That becomes x plus 3, x minus 2. It's the same thing because you can switch the order of multiplication. Go ahead and pause and try this one. A is 1, B is -2, C is -80. So what multiplies to -80 and adds to -2? Well, 1 and 80, 2 and 40, 4 and 20, 5 and 16, 8 and 10. Well, 8 and 10 could be 2 apart. So 8 and 10, but it has to be a -2, so that means the 8 has to be negative. Nope, that means the 10 has to be negative, right, to assign it to the -2. So I'm going to do x plus 8, x minus 10. A quick check here, just to check my last two terms, a +8 and a -10 will get me to -80. So that's just a little quick check that I like to do. And here's our last problem. Go ahead and give it a try. Let's set up our x puzzle. A is 1, B is 3, and C is -28. So it multiplies to -28 and adds to 3. 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 4 and 7. That could be 3 apart. So 4 and 7 to make a +3. The 7 would have to be positive and the 4 would have to be negative. So I get x minus 4 and x plus 7 for factored form. So to recap factoring when A is 1, make sure the polynomial is in standard form first. Then you're asking yourself the question, what two numbers multiply to A times C and those same two numbers add to B? When you're finished, Factor form should be in parentheses. Nice job.